a man stood in the rain outside the gates of Rome, holding the one piece of evidence that could save an innocent life. The guards looked at his torn sandals, his empty hands, his thin frame, and turned him away before he said a single word. 3 days later, a wealthy merchant rode through the very same gate, said the very same words, and the whole city listened. We tell ourselves the truth speaks for itself. It doesn't. It speaks through whoever the world has already decided is worth hearing. His name was Maro. 6 months ago, he had owned 3 ships, a warehouse near the docks, and the respect of half the Senate. A storm took the ships. A fire took the warehouse. And within a season, Maro had nothing left but the clothes on his back. He still knew the truth he had always known. He still had the same mind, the same eyes, the same voice. But the world no longer saw a man. It saw an absence, and it treated the absence as proof of everything wrong with him. The scroll Maro carried held proof, written in his own hand, witnessed and sealed, that a young senator named Drusus had been falsely accused of theft. Maro had witnessed the real thief that night, a man now powerful, now feared, now untouchable. For 6 months, Maro had tried to deliver this scroll. He had gone to magistrates, to scribes, to anyone who would listen. Every door he knocked on opened just wide enough for someone to see his torn clothes and close again. One evening, Maro saw a familiar face leaving a bathhouse. Crito, a man he had once lent money to without a second thought. Maro called his name. Crito turned, smiled politely at a stranger, and did not recognize him at all. It wasn't Maro's face that had changed. It was the coat on his back and the coin no longer in his palm. That night, Maro sat against a cold pillar and asked himself a question he had never needed to ask before. Was anything he knew still true? The next morning, Maro tried one last time. The forum, at the hour when senators gathered before the vote that would seal Drusus's fate. He raised the scroll above his head and shouted that an innocent man was about to be condemned. For one heartbeat, every head turned toward him. Then, someone laughed, and the whole crowd exhaled with relief, because now they knew what to feel. A beggar with a story. That was all they needed to know. The scroll in his hand became invisible the moment they saw the sandals on his feet. 2 guards dragged Maro away from the steps. As they pulled him back, he saw Crito, the man from the bathhouse, walking toward the forum. Crito carried no scroll. He simply said, in passing, that he'd heard a troubling rumor about the Drusus case, and the senators stopped to listen. This is the part that should disturb you. Crito knew nothing. Maro knew everything. And only one of them was heard. Centuries later, psychologists would study this exact pattern and give it a name: the halo effect. One visible sign of status, and the mind fills in the rest for free. We like to think we judge people by their character. We don't. We judge the signal first, and then we invent the character to match it. The poor man who tells the truth is bitter. The rich man who tells the same truth is honest. Same words, different verdicts. Maro began to believe what the city believed about him. That is the real damage, not the rejection itself, but the slow agreement with it. By nightfall, the Senate had voted. Drusus would be exiled the next morning, condemned for a crime he never committed. That night, an old woman who sold oil lamps near the forum found Maro slumped against her stall and gave him a bowl of broth. asking nothing in return.
She told him something her grandmother had taught her. A teaching, she said, that came from a sage who lived 2,000 years before either of them.
The sage had written it plainly. Those with nothing are mocked by all, no matter who they are, and those with wealth are honored by all, no matter who they are. He wrote it not as a complaint, but as a warning. A warning that the world's judgment of you was never a measure of your worth, only a measure of what the world could see. And the world is nearly blind. Maro did not get his ships back that night. He did not get the Senate's attention, or Drusus's freedom, or his old life. What he got was smaller and stranger. He stopped needing the forum to confirm that he was telling the truth. He kept the scroll, not to show anyone, but because he, at least, knew what it said. The truth had not become less true because no one applauded it. A year later, when Maro had rebuilt enough to be heard again, the same senators who once laughed leaned forward to listen to a story he had been telling unheard the whole time. Here is the one thing the sage's warning demands of you. Stop waiting for the world's applause to confirm what you already know is true. Tonight, write down one true thing about yourself that the world has never acknowledged. Not because it's false, but because you haven't had the right coin to make them look. Then ask yourself, have I been trying to change this truth? Or have I just been trying to get the world to finally notice it? But the sages left something darker buried in the same chapter. A teaching about what happens to the man who finally gets the gold and the applause and discovers it changes nothing inside him at all. We'll go there next.